Here come the attendees. Big hello to everybody that's joining in. We can see all the attendees starting to stream in, which is always exciting. Hello, Jeff.
Hi, Clinton. I'm very excited for this session because it's our first run at running a sort of a new format of CloudCast, isn't it?
It is. It is. Might be worth explaining what a CloudCast is, Jeff.
Yeah. So, well, we thought that the format or the platform for, I guess, communicating to people, the idea came to me because I listen in on a lot of podcasts, and I love the fact that they're very raw. They're live. There's a lot of relevant information, and they're largely unscripted. So I think the days of death by keynote are sort of done, and people don't want to listen to really access to that. So I thought the CloudCast would be a great way where people could tune in, and we would largely have a really unscripted type agenda and try to keep it as open platform as possible for people to ask questions, but more importantly for you and I just to discuss certain relevant topics and have it quite free. I guess we want this CloudCast to be as interactive as possible, so we're going to encourage people that are tuning in to ask their questions. Unfortunately, we can't add them in as panelists, but we can have you asking questions in the Q&A section. So if you look in your panel, you'll see a button that says QA, and that is sort of that's the mechanism that we encourage you to ask questions throughout this podcast, because the questions that you ask will guide us in terms of where the direction of the conversation goes. One thing that we would ask is that we don't really want this to be the platform for solving technical problems or support issues. You can certainly list those questions, but we would probably take those outside of the forum. It's more just to talk about the industry and to get insight in terms of what we're doing on a day-to-day basis and how things can change very quickly, and for us to be able to discuss those in a very in a platform we can share with everyone.
Absolutely, conversation style rather than working to a script, working to an agenda, and working to a death by keynote, like you said, Jeff. So yeah, we'll keep this nice and open, nice and loose. I had a little bit of technical issue just then. I hope that didn't affect anybody, but we've still got a few attendees rolling in as well. But we'll get things kicked off. We are recording today's session, so we'll be uploading this and making it available to all of the registrants. Anyone that has joined us today, anyone that's attending the CloudCast today, goes into the draw for our fantastic prize, thanks to Flight Centre, $1,500 gift voucher for Flight Centre, which will make a very nice holiday for an end of year break or start of the year break. So good luck to everybody for that one. But I think maybe a good place to start, Jeff, would be to a bit of a review of some of the highlights from Xerocon, our event that's just gone last week, that we're still recovering from and we're still catching up from.
Yeah, Xerocon is I love Xerocon because what is it? Was it our 5th year now, I think, that we're at Xerocon? And it is that one time of the year where everybody just takes a break from the running of their business, and it's a chance to look back and reflect on the year and just see what you've done as a business and compared to the last Xerocon, and also what are all of our colleagues. We've sort of grown up as a big family together, with all of our partners, and seeing them grow and develop new partnerships and relationships, and new siblings come into play. So it's always a good chance to sort of step back and look at how the whole Xero ecosystem has evolved.
Yeah, absolutely. Reconnect with everybody, and a bit of a chance for everyone to let their hair down as well. But great opportunity to have a chat with people and understand where everybody's up to and where the industry's headed, and that's really been the I guess the spearhead of why we're doing these cloudcasts. It's a chance for us to not do this once a year, but do this regularly and get the conversation going, because there's always so much good that comes from getting everybody together into a network type of atmosphere and getting the ideas flowing and getting the conversation going and just sharing our knowledge. There's enough work out there for all of us. Let's share it.
Absolutely. I think one of the big things I was taken back by was it actually started on Uni Day because you had your breakout session, but there was just the sheer number of new Xero users or people that were attending Xerocon for the very first time. I mean, we sort of think that everyone's been on the same journey as us, and many people have, but I was just really put back by the sheer number of new people that this was just their first opportunity or their first experience with the Xero journey.
Yeah, it's great to see. It just goes to show that we're starting to get a lot more momentum with the power of what is happening here and what these solutions can do. So the more the merrier, 100%.
Yeah, I had one accountant come up to me and say that they had just started with Xero, and what was an eye-opener for them was that they completely missed the boat because they were approaching it from a compliance point of view. And clearly a lot of the messaging in Xero was that they were, pushing people, or at least, opening up the idea that they need to be evolving into doing more advisory work. And that was the key takeaway that they had from the actual show, was, that they had to expand what their footprint of services would be that they would deliver to their clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there was some really good validation of what we're doing as cloud integrators and what cloud integrators are doing in general in working as a team with the bookkeeping and accounting partners to, I guess, really talk about the benefits of it and how it can help and how it helps the customers. And we saw that on day one in one of the breakout sessions. We had our fantastic partners up on stage talking about working with a cloud integrator and the impacts that it had on their businesses and their clients, and just how the whole relationship develops and how it can be, how it's not only beneficial for their clients and for their businesses, but for the industry as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, watching how the whole ecosystem evolves, and Xero's been great in terms of supporting us, in terms of educating that we're not competitors. They actually need cloud integrators to help support bookkeepers and accountants, because the problem is they've built this ecosystem that's 600 plus apps deep, and it's a bit of a monster. That they want people to leverage all of these integrations and add-ons, but it's a bit overwhelming for people to go and try to research. I mean, just walking into the exhibition hall and looking at all the apps, it's like, where do you begin? And even from my perspective, there were still a lot of apps that I looked out, and it was very difficult for me to navigate my way through what all of those apps were. So
yeah, absolutely. And it's probably a good time. We're going to use some of the tools within Zoom, the Zoom tools that we're using today. We've got a poll, a quick poll, a couple of questions. Just want to get the interaction happening. There's already been a question from Diane, which we will address. Diane, we're certainly not ignoring you, but we will address that in a moment. But we'll just get this poll out to everybody. I'm just launching the poll now. So you should see up on the screen a couple of questions, and you're able to provide some answers to those questions. Pretty simple. I know there was a couple of these questions have you worked with a cloud integrator in the past? That was asked on Uni Day in the panel discussion that I was involved in, and it was quite interesting to see the results of the number of people that haven't worked with a cloud integrator. So yeah, it was quite interesting, and I think maybe that is a reflection of the number of new faces that we saw in the crowd that were starting their Xero journey. but it's also interesting to see the range of verticals that everybody's servicing and working in, because as Cloud Integration Partners, made up of TradiePad and SMB Consultants, we service a certain number of those verticals. TradiePad, we look after trades and services and construction, and Jeff and the team at SMB looking after retail, hospitality, wholesale. And there are other, there are obviously other verticals that are out there that we don't service. But a big goal for us with these CloudCasts is to get some other cloud integrators involved and get them involved in the discussion, because everybody has their own way of doing things and their own input. And we are certainly not the only people that are out there doing this cloud integration work. So we want to open it up to everybody. So it's just interesting to see the range of verticals that are being serviced.
Yeah, I think that's interesting to know, because people often ask, will you add additional verticals to Cloud Integration Partners? And I think the answer is yes, absolutely. But I guess the reason why we haven't is that some of the other verticals they haven't been quite as mature in terms of the stack of apps that are available. We don't think that, because I think there's too many people out there that they're searching for that one app that they can peg down as, oh, this app is good for this type of business. And it just doesn't work that way. And in our particular verticals, we've worked very closely with our partners to make sure that our stack of apps that we need to address particular verticals is very mature, and the integrations are well thought out. And we actually play a large role in directing and advising these software developers on how these integrations should work, right? So as we find other integrators, or as the stack of apps for particular verticals matures, then we'll look to bring those other integrators and verticals on. However, I think for us, the whole goal of Cloud Integration Partners was just to help. It's a one-to-many approach where we really were trying to solve the problem of which add-on is right for me. And you could go out and try to research all of those apps that are out there, or you could deal with a couple of units which are now merged into Cloud Integration Partners, which gives you access to a whole range of add-ons. So that was sort of the idea: streamline the way that we could offer the experience and advice that we've gained through setting up these add-ons, and make it easier for bookkeepers and accountants to access that.
And there's a good question there from Jason saying, because of the large number of add-ons, how do you go about sorting out what are good add-ons or not, especially with new add-ons coming into the market so frequently? It's a very good question, and that's really my role. My almost full-time role within TradiePad now is keeping abreast of all of those things that are coming through and working out where they fit into the ecosystem, what the stability is, what the longevity is, what the backing is, working out whether they are actually best of breed, because best of breed is where we sit. We only want the best solutions. We only want to offer the best solutions to the customers that we're dealing with. It's only been a short period of time that these types of solutions, these cloud-based solutions, have been around, but we've already seen a few software companies come and go. There's a few that spring to mind within the trades and services space, and it can be very, very disruptive when you put so much time and effort into a particular solution, into implementing a particular solution into a business, and something happens to that, whether it's they go out of business, or for one reason or another the software doesn't work the way it used to, or something happens where they release something and it causes an issue. Changing solutions because of something like that is very, very disruptive. And it's not only disruptive to our clients that have these solutions within their business, it's very disruptive to our businesses as well. So we had one situation a few years ago where a number of our clients were on a particular solution and something happened to that, and we had to then move all of these customers, and it nearly broke TradiePad. It nearly broke the business, because we had to stop what we were doing, stop all the projects, and go out there and basically go into damage control
we did the same thing.
There you go. So it is extremely important for us as the cloud integrator to only be working with solutions that we have absolute confidence in, and that we know are going to be there for the long run. and something that we're really, really vigilant of. And we know now, we've learnt the hard way. I mentioned this in the Uni Day panel session, that a lot of times the only way to learn things is to learn the hard way, do the hard yards and make the mistakes and learn from it. And that's exactly what we've done. We know now what to look out for. And we know now what platforms are the best to be on, what's going to cause issues in the future. Scalability of a lot of these solutions is a big thing. We've got software. I spoke to a couple of young guys just last week down in Melbourne that have created a really nice looking piece of software, and they have 50 users on there at the moment. But we talk about moving to 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 users. What does the scale look like? What are you going to do to make it work for that number of users? And a lot of times it's something that the software developers haven't necessarily thought about. So we don't go down the path of working with a software partner, unless we're 100% confident with a whole range of different things, different KPIs and critical things within their solution. And I guess you're the same, Jeff.
Yeah, I think to add to Jason's question, we've taken a very similar approach in that we've been vertical specialists. So we're accountable to making sure that we're always searching for the best apps that are out there that are filling particular needs. So we've found software apps or add-ons by way of our clients' needs and requirements. And so everything that we've brought on board, we've curated, and we have hands-on experience using. We've selected and curated those lists, and so have you. And that's sort of the thing that made me realize, because when we caught up last year, and I said to you, Clinton, what add-ons are you supporting now? And you said, oh, this, and this. And honestly, I only recognized probably 2 or 3 of the ones that you had, and you knew them like the back of your hand, just the same way I knew the inventory apps like the back of my hand. And I said, listen, I've known you for so many years. How would anyone else expect to navigate and know exactly what apps you're supporting? And the reality is, and when we spoke to our account manager at Xero, is that people were recommending us because of our vertical specialization, right? They would know that if a client was in the retail sector, SMB specializes in that. They didn't know exactly all the apps. They could probably pick 1 or 2, but we had a whole stack of apps that we used because that's our toolkit that we use to offer solutions in that vertical. And there's a lot of apps as well that, you and I get approached by add-ons on a weekly basis, people wanting to, position their apps with us, and we absolutely can't take on board all of them. So we have a very strict criteria in terms of what we bring on board, because if we bring on too many, it dilutes our ability to advise and really support that product well. So it's really got to solve a problem very well. And there's some products that, we looked at, and at the time when we evaluated them, it wasn't solving any problems for us. But, over a period of years, we started to see different types of clients, and that product evolved. And we later took on board that product. Vend is a really good example of that. When we first looked at Vend, we didn't really see, our benchmark was Lightspeed, and on the surface, it didn't have feature parity. But when 2 years later, when they introduced the integration between Shopify and Xero, we thought, wow, this is really much more than a POS product. It's an integration platform. And so we decided to take that product on board at that time.
And we had a similar experience with Formatize. We do a lot of work with Formatize now. Formatize started as a forms-based solution, hence the name Formatize. And we put it into a couple of businesses early on, a number of years ago. But they were typically much larger businesses. One was a facility service manager, a facilities maintenance company looking after big facilities like the airport, doing maintenance work, cleaning, that types of things, and forms were a key thing for them. Another business they were doing the servicing of the electronic street signs that you see out on the road. So big businesses, lots of people, lots of data collection. Forms were a key thing for them, and Formatize was perfect for that. But about 12 months ago, maybe a little bit longer, Formatize released actually it'd be less than 12 months ago, Formatize released a CRM, built-in CRM to Formatize, which coupled up forms, with jobs, with scheduling, with CRM, with absolutely customizable data collection and data feed into Xero. So it all of a sudden changed the type of client that Formatize worked for. And we've now put Formatize into lots of different types of businesses because of the customization of it. Now, it doesn't suit everybody. It doesn't suit all types of businesses. But the point I'm trying to make is that software companies are evolving, and it's our role to stay on top of those features and those new types of businesses that these solutions work for. So we're revisiting with our software companies, a lot of the companies we're actually working closely with and saying, oh, if you did this, it's going to open up your suitability to a whole nother market. Or if we connected your solution up to something else, we could close this gap. So we're kind of like we're in the meat and the sandwich, I suppose, to a certain extent, or the relationship manager between the apps and the integrations to help us solve problems for our customers and provide best of breed solutions, but also help the software companies and make their solutions better. So it's a cool position to be in. I absolutely love what we do and love this space. Always looking for new things that we can work with and problems that we can solve. And we keep coming back to that one big problem we've been chasing for a while, Jeff, where it's point of sale and inventory coupled with field services. So it's been a solution we've been chasing for 5 or 6 years now, and we're getting it's looking like we're finally getting close to an answer for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great that the software. I think I've advised with every single one of our add-on partners on the Xero integration, and it's great that they reach out and they ask us, because we are in the front line. We're managing the software as well as the client, and we're often dealing with different people that exist within the business. And so the fact that they use us as a source of information and ask for our recommendations in terms of how we want these integrations to be improved, I think is great. Because one thing that I've always made point of is this add-on ecosystem has grown at an exponential rate. And they started this add-on ecosystem basically saying we have an open API and you can integrate with us, and all these apps piggybacked the success of Xero's growth in the last 5 years. But there hasn't really been much regulation or documentation around integrations. There isn't like a grading system where if you went to a particular add-on app and you went to the integration page and you saw Xero logo there, the end user would assume that app is integrated, right? I mean, the Xero logo's on there. So, and there's a lot of gray area. I'm sure, just love to hear anybody's feedback in the Q&A if people have been across that, where, somebody's gone and had an expectation that a particular app would work or integrate in a certain way, and it was a lot different from what they expected. And that can be a big problem that we come across, as well as really, understanding how the integration works. And I think the level of expectation now in Australia and New Zealand is very, very high. We've been exposed to what integration can do and the benefits, but we want it to work properly now.
Yeah, that's right. And not only working properly, but working to its full potential, because I think there's integration and there's integration. So right. Having those varying levels, and admittedly, not every solution needs to have as deep an integration to Xero or to other things as another solution. Some are a starting point where you don't, let's say in the trades and services, we might have a very simple job management system that allows us to create a customer, create a job, schedule it, create a quote, create an invoice. That's it. The customers and the invoices will sync to Xero, and that's really all we need. But then if we go to a more advanced business that might be doing, say, some more complex cost tracking, so a builder or someone doing project work, they need customers and jobs and scheduling and invoices and quotes, but they also need purchase orders, and they need the ability to record bills against jobs. And rather than have to double handle things so that it's having to be entered against the job and being pushed into Xero, we want to enter that once. So we then need the integration between the project management system to also be feeding bill information into Xero. and there's different levels of bill integrations. One solution will just push the bill data, the text and the quantities and the dollar figures. Another solution might push that bill data with an actual copy of the document, the file that's associated with that bill. So there's lots of little things that I guess if you're inexperienced, you make assumptions about what things can do, and that's where you get into trouble. That's where, and we've done it. Like I said, we've learnt the hard way of assuming that things do things a certain way, when in actual fact, it's you have to look for it. You have to experience it. You have to have done those, maybe learnt the hard way to get a good understanding of how it's going to work.
Yeah, and I think that's also, I mean, that's sort of a segue into talking about Xero HQ and integration workflows, is that, you know, we get approached all the time saying, I've got a client that does this, this, and this. What app do you recommend, right? That there is this one app that is going to solve all their problems. And integration is far more, there's more levels. There's, you know, there's ecosystems of apps, and understanding the implications of the workflows that will exist or change when you introduce a new app is something that is fairly common, and why I guess you and I are quite apprehensive about making, I just guess, very laissez-faire sort of recommendations based on a very small amount of information, is that, you know, there are implications. If you put an app into a business, how will that affect the overall workflow with everything else they're using in the business? And so, yeah, I think that's what are your comments around that, around, you know, having that one app that you say is good for this type of business?
Oh, I'd love it to make our job much easier. The one thing that could do it all, that would be amazing. But yeah, it's just not a reality. Businesses operate differently. We've got different levels of technology adoption. We've got different levels of connectivity. We have solutions that work online only. We've got some that work online and offline. There's so many variables to it. I know, Jeff, and
some of them aren't even related to just feature set. Like, some people just want to read the features off the side of the, you know, in a box and go, oh, that's a good fit for that. But it could be like timing issues, the size of the business. Are they tech adopters?
Yeah.
What's their budget? You know, like, are they used to working with spreadsheets or not? Like, there can be lots of variables that are not just limited to the features that they're after. And by the way, sometimes people are looking to replace like for like, and they just go, well, this is the way I'm used to working today. I want to do exactly what I'm doing today in this new piece of software. But the way they're working today isn't efficient to begin with.
That's right.
Right. So, you know, that's where they get stuck. They're trying to replace this legacy product and workflow with a cloud product because it's what they know and they're comfortable with. And they fail to, we've said it before, they don't know what they don't know. Or they're not approaching it from a, you know, looking outside of the box approach, because they don't know the solutions and workflows that are available out there.
Yeah, that's right. And that's a big part of our role as the cloud integrator, is a lot of time you're re-engineering those workflows and you're asking pointed questions. Why do you do it like that? Do you know that you can do it a different way and have a different outcome, and that can have a big impact? And it's, you know, it's not a bad thing. It's not, we're not having a go at people or the way that they're running their business. It's just that, like you said, they don't know what they don't know. So the cloud integrator's role is a lot of time re-engineering those workflows, and business analyst comes to mind, and you know, sometimes counselor as well. You know, we get involved in people's businesses, and it might be maybe a husband and wife team, and they're doing things a certain way because that's the way they've always done it, and it's causing problems. And, you know, we help with all of that. We take all of that into consideration when making the recommendations and doing the implementation.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we make this a segue into talking about Xero HQ, because I think that was one of the, in terms of how I see the evolution of where Xero is headed in terms of providing tools for their bookkeepers and accountants, Xero HQ really starts to, I think, bring together the concept of partnership in a really cohesive way. And maybe I'm just going to share my screen with a blog article that was sent to me. So I don't know, most of you should have received this. Can you see my screen now?
Still loading on my screen. Wait for it to connect. I can't see it on my screen. Come on, technology. We love you when you work. Okay, let me just see what we've got here. Oh, yes, okay. Everyone can see it. Okay, it's just me.
Okay, great. You'll have to trust me, Clinton.
Yeah, I do.
So, yeah, I'd love to, maybe if you can pop in a question into the poll, because I'd love to get an idea as to how many people have actually had a look at Explorer in Xero HQ, just to get a feel for the data that is coming through here. Because I found this to be really, really interesting, because there's been obvious platforms out there like Maestrano and Nine's folks that have tried to be the hub for seeing which add-ons are connected to Xero. And Xero taking the role in providing this, I think, is a massive step for you guys as advisors, because it gives you a real-time insight into what are the verticals that your clients are across, and what apps are they connected to. Because as bookkeepers and accountants move more into an advisory role, you're going to have the option of deciding, which add-ons would you like to recommend and set up yourself. I mean, I know a lot of accountants and bookkeepers, the first one that always gets mentioned is Receipt Bank. Many people use that internally, and they feel comfortable enough recommending that to their clients. But I know when I looked at this, I thought one of the things we lack is a tool to know where a customer is in their journey of looking at add-ons. And it's very apparent that the ecosystem of Xero clients is maturing. People are well and truly using Xero, and they're starting to get more value out of it and starting to explore add-ons. Now, how are they doing this? Are they going out and researching that on their own? Are they going to websites? Are they asking their colleagues or their other fellow business owners? Are they going to their bookkeepers and accountants? And then some of them are going to bookkeepers and accountants because, as it was outlined in the Xero keynote, you guys are in a position to be very highly trusted advisors. And so when you're being asked these questions as to what should I do next, and how can I leverage Xero as a platform to make my business more efficient, that is what Xero, the heart of what Xero is doing is they're building a platform which uses technology to connect to different things, be it banks, financial institutions, tax, government, and apps. And so Explorer gives us unique insight into how your customers are using Xero. Now, you may use Explorer to go in and find that there are particular clients that are using no add-ons and no apps at all. And that might be an opportunity for you as an advisor to go in and provide some advisory work around what tools they could be using to leverage or improve their business. Now, I guess the most important thing is it definitely is a bit of a magnifying glass that allows you to sort of see what industries and verticals they're in and what's connected. But it could also be opening up a bit of a can of worms in that, you're possibly not going to be across all the apps that you see that are connected to your clients. So I guess that's where we sort of come into the picture, is that partnering with a cloud integrator, if you can identify that the industry types that your clients are in one of the 5 that we support, retail, wholesale, hospitality, trades, or construction, you don't necessarily need to know all of those add-ons. And by way of partnership through a cloud integrator, we could work together with you to help implement these add-ons and start to drive some of the things that you may identify in their financial package, so that we can deliver better end result. So the second part to Xero HQ that I think is really interesting is that Xero now are starting to take the lead hand in advising and paving the way to showing you what are the tools that you need to use within your practice or your stack of apps, your toolkit, your Swiss Army knife of apps that you should use to fuel your practice, to make you more efficient. So, you know, I love this idea because these apps that they highlight, these 9 apps, have been curated by Xero to say, these are the ones that you should really consider because they're things that are going to help you run your practice a lot better. I was already familiar with Receipt Bank, Practice Ignition, Fathom, HubDoc, Spotlight. The new ones that I wasn't aware of was Futurely, now Infinity, Futurely,
yeah.
Sweet Files, and Boma. Those are new additions to me. And again, it's just a reflection that these apps that Xero are recommending are the stack of apps that you guys as advisors should have in your toolkit and be experts on. These are not tools that us as cloud integrators would use. And if I was just to share another screen, so this goes into the conversation around workflows. There's a popular slide that I've used since 2015. And it's this slide with regards to the add-on ecosystem. Now this slide I created 2 years ago at Xerocon, and it was really to show the depth and how intertwined integration workflows exist in today's world. So some of you may have seen this, some of you may have not. You may have questions around some of these workflows, so feel free to ask any questions around this. But I love this slide because I think it helps you to visualize how complex a stack or an ecosystem of apps can be within a business, and it exemplifies that there isn't just one app to run an entire business. So
can I just jump in there, Jeff? Sorry to interrupt you. I can't see your screen. I just want to make sure that everybody can still see what Jeff is presenting. So just a couple of messages in the chat just to make sure that it's all coming through. Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Nicole. So I just hope that this is a recording as well. It's recording your screen. So fingers crossed. If not, we can always take some screenshots of these things and attach it with the mail out with the webinar as well, with the CloudCast. So sorry to interrupt you, Jeff.
That's all right. So it's funny. I made this slide when I presented at the Developers Day at the Xerocon Roadshow. Xerocon in Melbourne last 2 years ago, and I started mapping it out, and then I realized, oh my God, like this is much bigger than what I started. It took hours of my time to do it, but it ended up being really worth my time because I've used this slide in many client engagements. I've used it to talk to a lot of other app partners as well in terms of where do they sit in the ecosystem. So our journey started with Vend and Xero, and it could be any point of sale in the center, but really the focus for us was retail and how that integrates with the Xero accounting package. And a lot of businesses, maybe that's all they're doing right now in their journey is just, if all they did was leverage the benefits of linking up an inventory management system to an accounting package, they immediately see advantages. The next part of this is that a retail business would have other add-ons. So they would be integrated to an FPOS terminal. They might use Deputy to do their staff rostering. They might have an online store, which they use to sell to their clients. And they may have a scheduling component, maybe like a hair salon, or maybe they do classes or workshops, and they might do loyalty as well. And this really represents the retail ecosystem. Similarly, there would be an ecosystem for hospitality. We might have Count in the center, or there might be an ecosystem for construction and trades. But really, this green circle, represents what SMB would be looking to look after for an end user. Now, down below is what I consider to be the ecosystem for accountants and bookkeepers. Now, this slide I made 2 years ago, and it showcased Receipt Bank, Spotlight, Fathom, Crunchboards, Practice Ignition. Those 9 apps that Xero is recommending now, including all Bomi and HubDoc, is building on this slide. It's really, that's why I love it, is because Xero recognize that there are certain apps that you guys should be going out and being experts with. And by the way, that's what we want, because the crossover, or the overlap between those two ecosystems is how the client is going to benefit. We want our clients that we set up being partnered with partners that are going to utilize things like benchmarking apps that will be able to leverage the data that they're getting from the point of sale system to be able to provide their client with better financial advice. And that is really, what we're trying to advocate, is this partnership of how we can manage the front end add-ons that are going to provide the data that feeds into Xero, and then the output goes into add-ons that you guys will manage that we're not across. And it's the sum of those two that really adds value. Now, we also have other ecosystems. So this other ecosystem here is around customer engagement. So you've got things like traffic analytics, mobile payments, email marketing, and social media. And then that brings us to wholesale and manufacturing. So, as we evolved, we realized that Vend is limited when it comes to dealing with wholesale and manufacturing. And there's a whole another raft of apps out there, like Deer, TradeGecko, Sin7, and Unleashed, that people can use for inventory management. Now, there's a lot of overlap between these applications. They all claim to do inventory management, but Clinton said it many times during Xerocon that it's not about what the features can do, it's more about learning what they can't do. Mm-hmm. And so, that's where, it's only when you have experience setting these up and you take the time to have a scoping session with the client and understand what workflows they need, that you're in a position to make a recommendation as to which one is correct for them. Because when you get into omnichannel, that opens up to many other things. So they could have multiple B2C sites, they could have a B2B platform, they could integrate to marketplaces, EDI integration to Meyer and David Jones, maybe even third-party logistics. So this slide is 2 years old, and there's certainly things that I need to update on it to make it a bit more current, but it really does help to visualize what how involved or how in-depth the integrations are, and the considerations that you have to make when making a recommendation. So for example, one real common one that we come across is maybe a retailer starts out by having an online store. So they have Shopify and they're using Xero as their accounting package. And the first obvious thing they would look to do is integrate Shopify to Xero. Now you can do that, but there are lots of limitations around Xero inventory. So there are certain clients that it's good for and certain clients that it's not. And sometimes by linking Shopify to Xero, the capabilities of what that integration can do and what both products can do together don't solve the problems that the business is looking to solve. And so therefore, they hook it up and they have a really poor experience because it doesn't do what they want it to do. They don't have the ability to manage fulfillment correctly. They can't print picking slips, for example. And so their expectations exceed what the capabilities of the software are. And what they don't realize is that they could probably solve that problem rather than linking Shopify directly to Xero. They could have an inventory management system in between. So if they were a wholesale or manufacturing business, they might go this path of using one of these add-ons. If they were a retail business, they might use this path. So that's just one little example of a type of situation that we come across where people are limited in the way that they think of how to approach the solution because they're not thinking outside of the box. Do you have any other examples of that in your?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got a good example of one of our software partners that's created maybe workarounds for that as well, which is quite unique. So before I get into that, I'll just highlight a relationship that we as in TradiePad and SMB Consultants have with Apple. So we've been working with Apple now for a number of years. I engaged with Apple 4 or 5 years ago now when TradiePad was very, very new. And I had applied to be part of the ACN, the Apple Consultants Network. And Jeff, I know SMB Consultants, you were part of the ACN, but TradiePad didn't quite fit into the ACN model. We were doing things very differently to what the traditional consultants were doing that were part of the Apple network. So I put my application in to be part of the ACN, and Apple looked at the idea, the business model and the concept and went, no, that doesn't quite fit, but that's very interesting. So I had one of our now good friends at Apple contact me and say, I would love to come and spend a little bit of time with you and just see what you're doing. So I had one of the guys come and drive around with me in Sydney, come and visit a few of the clients. And I had a little Suzuki van at that stage I was driving around in, all branded up with TradiePad. And we drove around and spoke to a few clients. And he said, this is really different. You know, there's nobody that's focusing this much on mobility, on mobile devices and apps being used in business. And the relationship then kind of accelerated from there. So both SMB and TradiePad were involved in a series of pilot presentations, I suppose you could call them, that were partnered up with, or it was in conjunction with Apple and Telstra, where we presented in conjunction with some app partners. So with TradiePad, we worked with GeoOp and Invoice to Go. And SMB Consultants worked with, I think it was Vend and Xero, Jeff?
Yep, Vend and Xero.
And we did presentations in Australia, in Sydney and in Melbourne, talking about the old way. With TradiePad, we spoke about the old way versus the new way. So the old way of tradies running their business versus the new way of doing it with cloud and mobility. And that it got a bit of traction. We had some good results. It was very time consuming, but it told a story. And Apple then took that over to California, to Cupertino, and they told Apple in the US about what we were doing and how we were doing it. And that got the ball rolling with mobility, with Apple promoting the use of mobility, cloud-based apps and cloud-based solutions with the mobile devices in business. And so 12 months ago, or a bit over 12 months ago, Apple released this MPP, the Mobility Partner Program, where Apple, who had traditionally been very deeply involved in the consumer space and in education, they made a play at enterprise, at business. And they launched the MPP as the start of Apple working more deeply with business and recognizing the fact that Apple devices and apps were being used to run businesses and change industries. So what we were doing 5 years ago had an impact on Apple, and Apple launched this global initiative off the back of what we started, which I'm still astounded that is the case. But it's exactly how it played out, because in Australia and New Zealand, we are leading the world when it comes to technology usage within business, mobility usage within business. So we have now, where SMB Consultants and TradiePad are now proudly part of this Mobility Partner Program, along with our software partners. So as part of the Mobility Partner Program, Xero is involved, Deputy is involved, Vend is involved. Is that right, Jeff? Vend is involved. And from the TradiePad counter, yeah, we have
Timely.
ServiceMate. So Timely's there. We've got ServiceMate. We have iAuditor involved. And part of this Mobility Partner Program from the software partner's perspective is that as a software partner under this program, you get to go to Cupertino, go to the Apple headquarters, and go through a very stringent process where they analyze your app and assess it, and give you recommendations, guide you on further development and where your app's going in the future, and just how to leverage all of the Apple tools as part of your solution. And I have watched this whole program roll out, and ServiceMate has been a standout in the way that they have engaged with this program and where their app has gone. So 18 months ago, we've been working with ServiceMate for years, but 18 months ago, ServiceMate back then is completely different to what ServiceMate is now.
There was a scoring structure. I remember when they went and they scored very low and they gained like 80 points after they went to Zero Labs, and it was just sort of like, the rehashing of their product.
Yeah. So ServiceMate, which is a little family business out of Darwin, started by a husband and wife team, got the whole family working in the business. The son, one of the sons, is a locksmith, and ServiceMate was really created to help him run the locksmith business. It's evolved now to this global phenomenon, which there's a big announcement on this Friday, the 22nd, big announcement that ServiceMate is launching with some new features and new functionality of the likes I have never seen before. So they are really leveraging this relationship that they have with Apple and using the new features and functions that are coming out with iOS 11, which launched today. So if you have an Apple device, you may start seeing the iOS 11 update becoming available. And a big part of iOS 11 is AR, is augmented reality. And I've spoken at quite a few industry events. I spoke recently up at the National Electrotechnology and Communications Association, so NECA, the Electrical Industry Association. They had an event up in Far North Queensland, and I spoke about technology in the industry and where it's going. And AR is a big thing, augmented reality on site, VR, drone footage, overlaying augmented reality. It's all heading in that direction. And ServiceMate has a new feature that they're launching on, it's already been announced, but it's launching on Friday, which is using that AR functionality built into iOS 11 to give some functions that I have never, ever seen before, only dreamed about. So I can actually show some of this information. I can show this update. So I'm going to show my screen. It's some functionality where using the ServiceMate app on a phone, on an iPhone now, you're able to measure an area, measure a linear measurement using augmented reality on the phone. So when you're looking at the phone screen, it'll look like you're taking a photo. On the screen of the phone, you'll see a cross, and you position that cross where you want to start your measurement, and you hit your button, and then you move your phone to where you want to measure to. So say you're standing in the middle of a bathroom and you want to measure the floor area. So you point it at the first corner, move the phone around to the second corner, hit the button, move it to the third corner, hit the button, move it to the fourth corner, or the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, whatever it might be. And it will give you linear measurements of all of those lines.
Wow.
And auto-calculate the area measurement of the area that you've just mapped out. So it's giving you the linear measurement just by moving the phone around the room, the area measurement, and it's also generating a diagram with three-dimensional planes. So if you're measuring,
wow,
you're measuring a floor area that steps up or something like that, it gives you that whole diagram, that whole schematic. I saw that at Xerocon. Darren from ServiceMate showed me, and that is amazing. That's the stuff that we've been dreaming about for years. So it's going to have a big impact on the way that the industry is going to work, doing measurements. It's to 1 centimeter, 1 millimeter accuracy. So it's a game changer, massive game changer.
Wow.
And that is just scratching the surface of what ServiceMate will be announcing on Friday and where they're headed in the future. So another big thing. Sorry.
No more measuring tapes to the tool belt.
That's right. Tape measures. But I was talking to someone about this just the other day. It has a big impact on safety as well, because say I'm measuring a roof area or a piece of fascia on a roof, or a length of gutter, or a window measurement that's on a second story. I don't have to get my ladder out anymore. I just point my phone point to point, and I'm confident that the measurement that's coming out is accurate. So safety, time saving, accuracy, it's a game changer, massive game changer.
Awesome.
ServiceMate also has, last year they announced an integration platform that they were creating. So they've created, won't go into the technology of it, but it's a serverless, it's a way to build apps and add-ons for ServiceMate that are hosted on AWS, Amazon Web Services, hosted on AWS, that you can basically build whatever extra feature you need for ServiceMate that will work as an add-on to ServiceMate. So getting a developer involved to build something that ServiceMate can't do, you can basically create it now through this integration or this connection and the features that AWS provides. So going back to
AWS is providing a lot of turnkey technology that developers could just use. They don't have to write from scratch. It's almost like templating now.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, we've got 3 minutes left, Clinton. Maybe we'll wrap up by opening up the panel again. I wanted to ask the question, if anybody, what do you need from cloud integrators? Please send us your feedback in terms of, what the thing I think needs to be solved, or what I'd like to see Xero do, is to make it easier for accountants and bookkeepers to engage with us. We talked a little bit at the show about maybe Xero developing a bit of a playbook, standardized steps that a bookkeeper and accountant could use to engage with a cloud integrator that would be standardized across all cloud integrators, and just making it easier, because I feel like people see the value in what we do. It's just they don't want to go into uncharted territories. They don't want to take risks on their own. They don't want to have to, figure out how to do this, and it take a lot of time and make mistakes along the way. But if Xero could, just create a step 1, 2, 3, here's what you do. This is what you get access to, and maybe different levels. Platinum partners might get access to maybe a funded breakfast meetup with a cloud integrator, whereas silver partners get access to pre-formatted EDMs that they can share with their clients. There's actually some sort of process in place to get people to unlock resources that Xero could provide to engage with us as partners.
And there is one question there from Diane as well. I don't know if you want to address that one, Jeff. It's probably more in your space than in my space. I don't know if you can see that question.
Diane's question, the butcher question. Yeah. So Diane's asked, do you have an app for our butcher who wants to keep track of orders, daily orders that need to be completed, notifying clients when order is completed for pickup? That's a tricky one, again, because butchers generally have a component for what we call random weight, which is they need to be able to weigh that piece of meat, and then it print and provide a barcode that not only tells you what product it is, but also the weight and the rate that is associated with it. And that's not something that we offer, because weigh scale integration, for whatever reason, is quite a expensive integration for people to integrate to, typically Wedderburn scales are what are used in the industry. And then the idea of notifying clients through SMS, I haven't seen any app that does that. So we don't have currently a solution that could meet those requirements.
Is it a matter of the, say the Wedderburn scales, the technology hasn't caught up with what the cloud can do yet?
No. Yeah. Well, Wedderburn is a hardware piece of device that uses serial ports. Right. So it's kind of like old technology with expensive cost to meet, because it's measuring something. There's requirements around the accuracy of that equipment that's taking the weight and sending it across. So we've come across it a lot, but it's not something we can solve right now.
There's a gap that needs to be filled.
Yes, another gap. There's always gaps.
Yeah.
All right, we should wrap up though. Hopefully everyone found that beneficial.
No questions.
And we'd love to hear feedback on the new format as to whether or not you found that a little bit more engaging and involved in the conversation that we had. And if there's other topics you'd like covered that we didn't touch on today, then please feel free to shoot them through. If you haven't registered yet as a partner, please register at CloudIntegration.Partners. And also, hopefully we will make the draw tomorrow on our Facebook page for the $1,500 travel voucher. So one lucky attendee for the one of the CloudCast from the last 2 days will be going on a trip courtesy of Cloud Integration Partners. So hopefully you guys can tune in to see who the lucky winner is.
Good luck, everybody, and thank you everyone for your time. It's been great. And just one last thing, we will be sending out a link to the recording. Hopefully the recording has worked appropriately, but we'll send out the link to the recording and some further information about Cloud Integration Partners as well. So thanks everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Clinton.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye.